Hi, I'm Regular Zach, and this is my limited set review for the Edge of Eternities Magic the Gathering set. Today we are talking all about the gold cards, so the multicolored cards in the set. There are only like 22 to 23 of them, so we should get through this fairly quickly. I put everything on a rating scale from A to F. So A's are the bombs. These are the best cards in your deck, the ones you're hoping to open the most. B's are cards that actively pull you into the color combination that they're in. Really great cards in your deck, super solid. C's are good. A lot of your deck is kind of built up around C's, so they vary from good to kind of like you're not super happy you're playing with them, but most of your deck are C's. D's are cards you hope you don't have to play, and if you do, maybe something went wrong in your draft. And then F's are just cards you shouldn't put in your deck. They're horrible, and just toss them out. There is an uncommon and rare card in every color combination, and a couple have mythics. So let's just get started and talk about our first card here. This is Station Monitor. It is white-blue for a 2/2 creature lizard artificer at uncommon. It says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 colorless drone artifact creature token with flying, and this token can block only creatures with flying. So the white-blue archetype cares about playing multiple spells. Obviously, this tells us that. And getting rewarded with a 1/1 flying creature. It can only block creatures with flying, but it's still a 1/1 flyer for doing something you already want to do in the game, which is cast 2 spells in a turn. We saw this with Flurry, which was in Tarkir Dragonstorm. Flurry was awesome, and I think this card's also going to be super awesome. This is like a B level card. There were cards that were similar to this that were single colored, so the fact that it's double colored, makes it a little bit harder. That's going to be the case for all the cards we're talking about today. But this is a B level card. Station Monitor, super excited to play this, and yes, absolutely, let's go. Next up, we have a Space-Time Anomaly, which is 2 white-blue for a sorcery at rare. It says target player mills cards equal to your life total. So mill strategies can work in limited, but you usually want them to be in lower rarities. You don't want them to be all these rare cards you have to get. And this one's really interesting. 4 mana to mill. You would hope you think about this card. You're like, oh man, milling 20 cards for 4 mana. That's awesome. One thing I will note about this is that it's much better than the Traumatize effects where it mills half your opponent's library. This actually could mill them out if you get to a certain part of the game. And there is a little bit of mill in this, not nearly as much as we saw in Final Fantasy. So I don't know. This looks more like a seed for like standard, where you'd want to play some of the Final Fantasy mill cards that were Azorius. And then this card could also jump in the mix. So, yeah, in draft, I don't think we want to be playing this card. This is a D. It might be funny to throw on your deck, but don't expect to win. So this is like a D to an F. You probably shouldn't put this card into your deck. Next up, we have Alfariel, Dreaming Acolyte. It's 1 blue-black for a 2/3 legendary creature, human cleric at uncommon. It says when Alfariel enters, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. And during your turn, Alfariel has Death Touch. Sweet. 3 mana 2/3 that has Death Touch on your turn is, all right. I do like having Death Touch to block. That's one thing that's really helpful, especially because this doesn't have any saboteur effects, but we do get something immediately when we play it. We draw 2 cards, and hopefully we just discard an artifact card. So this is just a spell staple to a creature that also had Death Touch, so it'll probably trade with something, but it is downshifted a little bit because we want Death Touch all the time because it's a really good defensive keyword. So I'm gonna give this like a C+. It seems good. I don't know if I would build my deck around this. I don't know if I see this and be, oh, blue-black's open, I need to go into it. Blue-black does care about artifacts, so any way to draw more cards is always good, but yeah, C+. Next up, we have Singularity Rupture, which is 3 blue-black-black for sorcery at rare. It says destroy all creatures, then any number of target players each mill half their libraries rounded down. Now, I was just talking about this Traumatize effects where you mill half of a library, so you can never mill somebody out by doing this. But this is still a 6 mana board wipe, which is sweet. And then the mill part also just seems to be extra. It's just extra gravy, basically. This is a 2-color board wipe, so that is a little bit hard, and the double black pips does knock it a little bit, but I still think getting any sort of board wipe that you possibly can with the extra mill stuff, because sometimes, you know, your opponents won't be using their graveyard, so it's actually still good to mill them. Put some pressure, you might be able to get rid of their bombs, who knows. But board wipes in general, I think, are extremely powerful because no one is really expecting them in limited, and especially anything that's a rare slot thing, you're often not trying to play around a rare board wipe. That just is not something that people do. So Singularity Rupture, I think there's like an A. I like this card a lot. The double black pips worry me just a little bit. So maybe it's like more closer to an A minus because it's a little bit expensive and cost prohibitive, but I like board wipes in limited. So we're giving Singularity Rupture an A. Next up, we have the Rakdos cards. So we are looking at Interceptor Mechan, which is 2 black-red for a 2/2 artifact creature robot at uncommon. It has flying, and it says when this creature enters, return target artifact or creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Hell yeah! And there's more text on this card too. It has Void. At the beginning of your end step, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell was warped this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. That's just extra. I know it like builds up over time. The Rakdos deck, the red-black deck, does care about sacrificing creatures and or artifacts. So obviously this Void thing wants you to, over time, it gets bigger and bigger. It has flying. But the fact that it's a 4-mana, like this is a Gravedigger with flying. It's a 4-mana 2/2 that gets you a creature card or an artifact back to your hand. All of those things combined, I don't know, this seems sweet. It's going to be a threat at some point. It draws you a card when you play it. All of this, I like all this stuff. This is probably like B to a B minus range. I think I'm just going to give it a B because of the fact that you just do draw a card. I like that a lot. Drawing cards and making cardboard are things that Limited are all about. So great job. This card looks nice. I like this a lot. Next up, we have Mutinous Massacre. It is 3 black, red. What a mana cost. For sorcery at rare. It says choose odd or even. Destroy each creature with mana value of the chosen quality. Then gain control of all creatures until end of turn. Untap them. They gain haste until end of turn. Whew. Okay. This card is crazy. I have not really seen this done ever. We've seen board wipes where they you have to choose odd or even and it just gets rid of the odd ones or the even ones. And so obviously even sometimes is a little bit better just because you do hit all the tokens. Tokens have 0 mana value, so that wipes all the tokens out. But being able to set up your board, like maybe you try to draft in a way that you might want to have more odd mana costs, like 3s and 5s instead of 2s and 4s, would be kind of interesting to hit this. The mana cost is quite expensive. 7 is a lot, and black, red is, it actually matters. So that's a little tough, but the fact that you wipe hopefully all your opponent's creatures. The funny thing about this card is that you want to have creatures left over that you want to steal still, because you do gain control of all the other creatures. So you have to decide whether like you want to kill the creatures that are really strong and then attack with the weak ones that are left over, or kill the ones that you that are weak and then take control of the big ones. And so it kind of depends on where your opponent's life total is at. Obviously, you're doing just a bunch of math in this situation to try to see, can I just kill them right now? And that's what you would hope. This card can, on most board states, if it becomes a little bit stally, this is the type of card that's just like, you know what? Nope, I win. Obviously, because you just gain control of a bunch of creatures. So, yeah, this card does say like 7 mana, you could win the game, which I like a lot. So this is definitely a very strong card, super sweet. Next up, we have Tanuk, Memorial and Sign, which is 1 red-green for a 2/4 legendary creature, Kavu Pilot at uncommon. Kavu are back, very exciting. It has Landfall, which is one of the big things about red-green once again. It says whenever a land you control enters, Tanuk deals 1 damage to each opponent, and if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card. Sweet. So we have seen this kind of, the first half of this effect before. It was even in the last set in Final Fantasy with Sabo Tender. But this is a better body. 3 mana for a 2/4, a nice blocker. You want to be playing a bunch of lands, so you're probably trying to ramp. So having a defensive body like this will be helpful in that deck. And every time you're playing lands, you get to ping your opponent. Super awesome. And we do have these things called lander tokens, which are a bunch of artifacts that you can pay 2 and get another land onto the battlefield from your library, which does help us trigger the second ability here. If you can do it twice in a turn, you get to draw a card. That is what pushes this over the edge. Being able to draw a card off of your lander tokens because you played a land for turn, then you crack your lander and you draw a card and get a land. Huge. That's so awesome. Really, really great. You do have to build your deck into a certain way. This can't just go into any deck, but I would be excited to play Tanuk in the Gruul deck and do a bunch of lander stuff. So B- for Tanuk. Sweet card. Yeah, I like that. I want to be drawing lots of cards off of this. We don't have fetch lands in this set. There's no Evolving Wilds or anything. So you really just have to lean on the lander ability. But I think you want to be taking those cards anyway. So you will be very happy to play this card. Next up is Biotech Specialist. It is red-green for a 1/3 creature insect scientist at rare. Here we go. When this creature enters, create a lander token. Boom. Done. We get to create the token. It helps our other dude. Fantastic. Also says, whenever you sacrifice an artifact, this creature deals 2 damage to target opponent. So every time you crack one of your artifacts, all your lander tokens, which is what this deck cares about, you just shock your opponent? Sick. Nice. This is great. I like this a lot. You do need more things kind of around it to be fantastic, but this is like a B level card. I'm really happy with this. It basically, lander tokens are similar to clues. Like clues let you draw a card from your deck. Landers always get you a land onto the battlefield. You have to kind of decide which one you think is better. Generally, I still think that clues are better, but it is kind of up for debate, in my opinion. So, is a clue half a token and a lander is like a little bit less than half, or it still feels kind of like, it's half a card is what I meant to say, not token. So a lander is like a little bit less than half a card, but it still is like a card. I don't know. I like it a lot, though. I think these are going to be quite strong, and I think this card in particular will be good as well. So next up, we are moving on to green-white. We have Halia, Ascendant Cadet, which is 2 green, white for a 3/3 legendary creature, human soldier at uncommon. It says, whenever Halia enters or attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and whenever one or more creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. Perfect. We do care about drawing cards. Drawing cards is very important. All right, so we're looking at Halia. First thing I see is double white. I am not obsessed with having the double colored pips in some of these cards, but obviously it's pushing you more in a white tokeny. Like the green-white deck wants to do a bunch of +1/+1 counter stuff, but you do want to be a little heavier white just to make sure you can cast this card. You look at the rate. So it's 5 mana for a 3/3, but it also enters and puts a counter on somebody. So it could give it to itself. So then it's a 5 mana 4/4. And then when it attacks, it gets another counter somewhere, which could go on this. So then it's a 5 mana 5/5. So it is on rate. It just takes some time to get there. And if it dies right away, obviously it wasn't or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. I think that just the strength of this card is attacking and putting counters on stuff, and the threat of being able to draw a card. I don't know if this card is going to let you draw that many cards, because obviously you only draw 1 card for each creature with +1/+1 counters that gets through, and your opponent can probably do a pretty good job of making sure that you don't get to do that. But if you spread out your counters enough, you will hopefully be able to sneak one of them through and get the card, because I think you really want the card. I'm not crazy about this card. It doesn't look extremely powerful, but if it's open, I'll probably still want to go into it. Attacking and putting a counter on something every turn is strong. That is true. So I think this is still like a B. I'm going to give it like a B- just because it feels expensive-ish and it's slow to get going. But I really hope I can draw a card off of this. That's my main focus, I think. Next up, we have Diadrine Synthesis Amalgam. It's X green-white for a 0/1 legendary artifact creature construct at rare. It has trample. And when it enters with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. And whenever you attack, you may remove a +1/+1 counter from each of 2 creatures you control. If you do, draw a card and create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. Wow, that is a lot of things going on here. All right, first up, this is an X spell. But you will always spend at least 2 mana on it. So this is, when you really look at it, it puts counters equal to the amount of mana that you spent. So it's a 2 mana, 2/3 trample, just baseline. You can do that every single day of the week, and then it just scales up from there depending on what you have. So I like this a lot better than some of the Hydra things that we see where it's like, color, and then it's only getting counters equal to X. No, this cares about the amount of mana. I love that. That is fantastic. And then attacking and being able to remove counters from, it doesn't have to be attacking creatures or even this creature. It can just be any of them. And you just get to make a bunch of robots and draw cards. So you make cardboard and you draw cards. Both things I want to do. I think this is an A. I think this card's quite good. Like, it has maybe we give it an A-. It's an A- just because there are things that you need to do, but it still has the strength of, at the very worst, you can play it on turn 2, attack, remove both the counters off of it, get your robot, get your card, bing, bang, boom, you're done. Like, I don't know. I like that a lot. I think this card will fit on your curve super easily. It'll feel so good. I'm very excited for something like this. Being able to play it early and late, and it's helpful in all the situations that have trample if you do it late. All that seems great. So A- for the Diadrine. Next up, we have Sir Vondim the Lucent, which is 2 white, black for a 4/4 legendary creature, human knight at uncommon. It has Death Touch and Lifelink. And says, whenever Sir Vondim enters or attacks, other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain Death Touch until end of turn. Same thing I'm going to say about the mana cost that have the double pips, just because it does actually matter. So you want to be leaning a little bit blacker to be playing this card, but a 5 mana 4/4 Death Touch Lifelink that enters, boosts your team, gets some Death Touch. First off, you just play it, attack with everything, and just be like, do you want to trade? Or do you want to take a bunch of damage? I'm fine with either of those situations. And then it just keeps happening every single turn after that. We're like, now I attack, everybody gets Death Touch. Now I attack, everybody gets Death Touch. I think that's pretty good. This is like a B+ in a really nice go wide tokens deck where you're just like, well, I have a bunch of little dorks I don't care about. They're all going to attack and you have to trade with every single one of them or take, 6, 8, 12 damage from this. Sick. This card's awesome. Like a B+. This is great. Next up, we have another version of Sir Vondim. This is the same character, except for older and better. Sunstar Exemplar. It's white-black for a 2/2 legendary creature, human knight at rare. It has Vigilance and Menace. It says, whenever another creature you control dies or is put into exile, put a +1/+1 counter on Sir Vondim, and you gain 1 life. Also, whenever Sir Vondim dies, or if it's put into exile, while its power is 4 or greater, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. This is a 2 mana 2/2 that has Vigilance and Menace, and every time something dies or goes to exile, so that includes warped cards. If you warp a card, your own cards, if you're just playing your own warps, you'll put counters on this and gain life. That's pretty sweet. If you're sacrificing stuff, you're putting counters on this. Already, this type of card is like fairly good. The keywords are extremely helpful on these. If they don't have keywords, they begin like just big dummies that get chumped. So the Menace is huge. Vigilance is really great. All that's very exciting. But the fact that if this is like, it gets 2 triggers, right? It's a 4/4 at some point. Then whenever they have to kill it, you just get to blow something up. There's a little bit of a build around here. There's a little bit of stuff that you have to do, but creatures will die. You're going to have warp cards. I don't know. This seems pretty good. I am going to give this just like a B+ though. I still think both of these Sir Vondims are great in different situations. But I don't know if this fully cracks into the A territory. Just because if you play it and it gets killed right away, it basically did nothing. And most of the time that's not really what your A's are supposed to be doing. So this will pull you into white-black, but not good enough to just take pack one, pick one kind of thing. Great card though. B+. Nice. Next up, we have Memnon. Ulthros Exile. It's 1 blue red for a 1/3 legendary creature, Jellyfish Advisor at uncommon. It has flying and says whenever an artifact you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Cool. Yeah. Okay. 3 mana 1/3 flying. You could put counters on this because it has flying. Put counters on other stuff in your artifact decks. Cool. Probably still just gonna give this like C+ though. Like, I'm not obsessed with this one. It wants you to play more stuff after it, which is totally fine. Putting counters around can be really strong, but I don't know. The white-green deck cares more. It has more stuff going on with the counters, so I think they're more useful. Where here, it just makes your stuff bigger, which is always good. And you'll probably need more of a board presence in this deck because you're going to be playing there's a bunch of like artifacts that you want to play to draw cards and do some other things. But yeah, it seems fine. C+. Next up, we have a Pinnacle Emissary. 1 blue red for a 3/3 artifact creature robot at rare. It says whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless drone artifact creature token with flying, and this token can block only creatures with flying, and it has warp for a hybrid blue red. So we talked about warp for a second, but we actually haven't seen a card with it yet in this video. So what warp is you may cast this card from your hand for its warp cost, which is either blue or red in this case. And it says exile this creature at the beginning of the next end step. Then you may cast it from exile on a later turn. So this one is pretty interesting. This wants you to cast artifact spells, just like the last card we saw. Obviously, blue-red cares about artifacts in this set. But this time, whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get 1/1 tokens. And the fact that you might have a situation where you're like, well, it's turn 5. I have 2 creatures or 2 artifacts that I could play, and I could also warp this first. So you like warp this out, cast your artifacts, get your tokens. This goes to exile. And then you get to play it later and then do more stuff. I don't know. This one seems good. I love this type of thing. And getting bodies is more important than +1/+1 counters almost all the time. You like going wider and having more pieces of cardboard is better than dice on those cardboard, which is the counters. So yeah, this is like a B+. I like this a lot. This is the type of thing. This is the type of thing we're looking for. Also love the warp. One mana for warp, awesome. It makes it really scary. You could have some pretty explosive turns with this card. Next up, we have Seed Ship Broodtender, which is green and black for a 2/3 creature insect citizen at uncommon. It says when this creature enters, mill 3 cards, and you can pay 3 black-green, sacrifice this creature, return target creature or spacecraft card from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, I love cards like this. First off, this is just a 2 mana 2/3. We have a couple of these in this set. I love 2 mana 2/3s. That's the new 3 mana 2/3. Is the 2 mana 2/3. I think they're really great for limited. It makes it feel like you have to do something to get more damage in because obviously a 2/3 is just inherently defensive. So love that, especially because we want to be milling, we want to be getting really big stuff into our graveyard, and we want to be getting it back out. This card does everything we need it to do. This is just a nice B-level card. Hopefully the format's long enough that we can actually utilize things like this, but I think we will be able to. And nice. This card, sweet. Maybe on the running for one of my favorite uncommons of the set. It really could be. Next up, we have Cosmogoyf, which is green and black for a star/1+star. It is a creature elemental Lurgoyf at rare. It says this creature's power is equal to the number of cards you own in exile, and its toughness is equal to that number +1. Yikes. Obviously, this is a joke on Tarmogoyf, which cared about permanent or card types in graveyards, in all graveyards. This only cares about cards that you own in exile. And in this draft format, it's really just talking about the warped cards that you have. I don't think we want to play this card. I don't think it's going to get big enough. There's some cooler things you can do in standard with this, but for draft purposes, I think it's just going to be weak. This is like a D, could be even just an F. This is just not a great card. I'll say D because I don't want you to feel like you can't play it, but you probably shouldn't. This card just is. Don't pick this early or really at all. Cosmogoyf, not good in draft. Next up, we have Sammy, Ship's Engineer. It is 2 red-white for a 2/4 legendary creature, Human Artificer at uncommon. It says at the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more tapped creatures, create a tapped 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. This is what the red-white archetype cares about a lot, is having 2 or more tapped creatures at the end of your turn. You get to make tokens or do a bunch of other stuff. Obviously, this one makes tokens. That's really nice. You do get more cardboard. The thing about it, though, is that oftentimes you'll be thinking like, oh, how do I tap my creatures? I attack with them. Well, oftentimes, if this is already on the battlefield, your opponent's just going to try to trade with whatever they can, so you end the turn without 2 tapped creatures. Like, if they trade off, they just won't be there when this triggers, so then you won't get your robots. Even though you did tap a bunch of creatures on your turn, they just weren't there at the end step. So, really what this card is telling me is that you're supposed to tap your creatures to station cards. So you'll be using them to power up your spacecrafts. And it kind of looks like that's what this card is doing anyway, because it's the Ship's Engineer. So there you go. You could also tap this itself if you're stationing. The turn it comes down, so you just need 1 other card and a spacecraft. Now, I don't think the spacecraft thing is going to be very good. I am really worried about it. They all seem really big and clunky, and the ones I like are the ones that do stuff on the way in. Like if they're kind of a spell. We haven't seen one yet in this set review at this moment, but, I don't know if it's going to be any good. I don't know if these abilities to just tap your stuff, I think you might just die if you just keep tapping your things to station and try to get value like this. Especially because it's a tapped 2/2, so it can't even block for you. That's pretty annoying, because all your cards are going to be tapped. I don't know. I'm not obsessed with this. I'm going to give it like it does give you a token, so I'm going to acknowledge that. This is like a C+ in my book. So if it works, that would be great. If it's better than this, that'd be cool. But I'm a little worried about this entire archetype. Next up, we have Ragost, Deft Gastronaut. It is red-white for a 2/2 legendary creature, Lobster Citizen at rare. It says artifacts you control are foods in addition to their other types, and have the normal food text where you can sacrifice it to gain 3 life. You can also pay 1 and tap it, sacrifice a food, and Ragost deals 3 damage to each opponent. And it says at the beginning of each end step, if you gained life this turn, untap Ragost. This, I guess, is one of the ways you could use to tap your creature and then have it also untap on other turns. So that kind of matters. It cares about having artifacts, which you do make robot artifacts in this archetype, as well as having stations. And there's also a bunch of other random artifact things. There are like lander tokens and all that stuff. So there will be artifacts around. There isn't a huge life gain thing going on here. I don't know if this card's going to be good in draft. I think that it could squeeze out something, but ultimately it's probably just like a C. I don't know if it's awesome. I think this looks like a fun commander card. I think they would be hilarious to have a lobster cook you food in that format. But in draft, I'm a little worried. I'm very skeptical about what this is going to do and how powerful it is to just turn all your artifacts into food. Maybe it'll do more than I think, but I'm thinking it feels very, like, fine. It's fine. It looks much better in constructed, let's just say that. Next up, we have Sammy, Wildcat Captain. Wildcat. He must have gone to the high school where High School Musical was. Anyway, it's 4 red-white for a 4/4 legendary creature, Human Artificer Rogue at Mythic. One of our Mythics! It has double strike and vigilance, and it says spells you cast have affinity for artifacts, which means they cost less for each artifact you control. A 6-mana card that makes your spells have affinity for artifacts is not extremely exciting to me. I would like that card to be much cheaper. But still, a 6-mana 4/4 double strike vigilance, like that is still a card. And the affinity for artifacts thing will matter enough that maybe you'll be able to double spell some more stuff. Though most of those payoffs are in blue-white, so I don't know. This seems like a B minus. I'm not obsessed. I'm not obsessed with this card, but it could possibly be powerful in certain situations. Just the 4/4 double strike vigilance is going to be really annoying. Your opponent does probably can't deal with it in combat most situations unless they have a giant spacecraft, which is possible. They could have stationed a spacecraft by the time that you actually get this out. So who knows? I would like the affinity for artifacts part of this card to matter, but I'm worried that it doesn't in this deck necessarily. We'll have to find out. Next up, we have Biomechan Engineer. It is green-blue for a 2/2 creature insect artificer at uncommon. It says when this creature enters, create a lander token. Obviously, that helps us ramp. And then for 8 mana, you can draw 2 cards and create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. So it's a sweet mana sink for all those awesome lander cards that you're going to get. You're going to ramp up, and then you're going to need more fuel. And this not only draws you cards, but it also gives you cardboard. Sick. This card's sweet. This is probably just like a B. 8 mana is a lot. That's a lot to deal with. But if you have nothing else to do, in Limited these days, we tend to have a bunch of things to do, and we're not really just sitting top decking. But this card makes sure that that will never happen. Especially in a lander deck like this, like blue-green likes to ramp, and you will get 8 mana, and you will be able to do this. So awesome. Super, super happy with that. Next up, we have Gene Morph Imago, which is green-blue for a 1/3 creature insect druid at rare. It has flying. It also has landfall. It says whenever a land you control enters, target creature has base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. If you control 6 or more lands, that creature has base power and toughness 6/6 until end of turn instead. Sweet. 2 mana 1/3 flyer that basically turns into a 3/3 whenever you get to play a land. Nice. And whenever you get more lands, you make 6/6s. This goes really well with all the lander stuff and those types of things. But like a 2 mana 3/3 flyer, that's awesome. I'm just saying that's a B. I'm super happy with that. Nice. That's going to be great. And then later it becomes a 6/6 flyer. Like that's basically all we need for draft. Like that's going to be awesome. So B for the Gene Morph. Next up, we have Infinite Guideline Station, which is Wooburg, white, blue, black, red, green, for a legendary artifact spacecraft at rare. It has a triggered ability when it enters. When it enters, you create a tapped 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each multicolored permanent you control. All of the multicolored permanents that you've seen so far are the ones in the set. This is basically the last one. Yes. It has station, which means you can tap another creature you control to put a charge counter equal to its power onto the spacecraft, and then only do that as a sorcery, and then once it has 12 or more, it becomes a 7/15 flyer, and says whenever Infinite Guideline Station attacks, draw a card for each multicolored permanent you control. This is obviously a multicolored permanent. So this kind of reads, screw up your mana, to play this thing, get 1 robot, maybe more, and then eventually you might be able to attack with a 7/15 and draw a card. This payoff is so crazy to me because in draft, number one, we don't have dual colored lands at common, so that makes splashing super hard. It makes going 5 color extremely hard. This card looks like an F. I don't think we can play this at all. And the payoff is not a payoff because you have to also build your deck around having multicolored permanents as well. You can't just play this 5-color spell that was hard enough to just play in your deck and get on the battlefield. You have to have all this other crap on the battlefield too for it to do anything. So this is definitely meant for Commander or Constructed or something, but you should not put this card in your deck. It is bad and it will lose you lots of games. Building your entire deck around it is a horrible idea, in my opinion. Please don't put this in your deck. You will be very sad if you do. That's how I feel. Those are all the gold cards from the actual set, but we do have one other card, which is a special guest, which is flying in. There are 10 special guests, and this is the multicolored one. It is Sliver Overlord. Sliver Overlord is a legendary creature. It also is Wooburg, or white, blue, black, red, green. It's a 7/7. And It has it has the ability. Sorry, just looking at it, I love this art. I think it's so awesome, but reading the card is also really difficult. So, um, you can pay 3 mana to search your library for a sliver card, reveal that card, put it to your hand, then shuffle. And you can pay 3 mana to gain control of target sliver. There are no other sliver cards in the set. This is the only creature with sliver as its creature type in this draft format. So this is definitely not something you should pick. This is an F. Pick it because it looks cool, like for I don't know, paper purposes. But if you're playing on Arena, I don't think we have enough slivers. Just don't pick it. Just don't play this card. Just don't play this card. It doesn't do anything. It's not good. It has all the same problems. It's a really hard to cast 7/7 that doesn't do anything. So there are better cards that you could be playing instead of this that are easier to cast. But anyway, folks, that is what I think about all the gold cards from Edge of Eternities. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. I have different videos for all the different colors, so check all those out. Get ready for your pre-release with me, and I will see you all next time. Bye.